Hey everybody, welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. We have reached episode 640. As someone
this is the last one.
As someone once allegedly said, 640 ought to be enough for anybody. Josh.
So we won't see you next week.
Yeah, and we won't, and that's true. I'm sorry.
It will actually cause a memory loop, and we'll start over again from 1, which is really impressive because no one has a copy of it anymore.
We didn't want to tell you guys this way, but this is our last show for 2 weeks.
We don't know how to
hiatus.
We don't know how to load EMM. So,
Sebastian, I think it's the week after next. It's the week of the 16th, not the week of the.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll cut all that out anyway. Let's start over again.
Yeah, well,
we're here next week. We won't be here the week after.
Yeah,
I'll be going fishing for 1.
That's it. I'll be in California. So.
Let's start over again.
No,
I'm going to stop the recording.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
It's fine.
Whatever.
It's sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's just keep going. You're just thinking.
Don't
about
even
your
cut
edits.
it. Just leave it in there.
I am thinking of the edits, and there's not a cohesive point to edit out that stuff.
Just leave it in.
And don't do it. Just leave it be.
People don't want to listen to this crap.
Beginning
That's true.
of an MP3.
This is art.
It'll be awesome.
Is it art? Well, you can find out when we go live for events like this by either following us on Twitter when I remember to tweet it out, which I actually did tonight, or sign up for the mailing list. Who doesn't use email constantly? You probably have push notifications set up for your email because you haven't turned them off for some reason. And then you'll get an email that says, oh, hey, they're going live. It's Wednesday night. Or if we do something else, as we keep threatening. So pcper.com/subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/pcper. Do we have any updates there, Brett?
You know, we do. I'm dedicating this podcast to the Silas Parker Boost, who increased their contribution on Patreon for us. So I'm dedicating this entire segment to the Silas Parker. I'm calling it the Silas Parker Boost. Yep. And I also have some unfortunate feedback on the sign up right now. The extension authors created a kind of a situation where it doesn't actually work at the moment. And it's I know it's difficult to believe, but it's not my fault. I just want to get out in front of that one. It's not actually my fault.
Okay, let's move on to the most important segment of the week where we check in with Josh in Laramie, Wyoming. And I add cheesy music. Or maybe I won't this week, just because I said that.
Maybe.
Go ahead, Josh.
Because there was some cheese on this one. This one today, we've seen it before, but sometimes it's good to go back to some of the classics. And I'm kind of curious if the picture was a little bit better this time than the kind of muted, tan, dull onion ring one last week. Hopefully. Anyway, it was the Naughty. We've had the Naughty before. The Naughty has comprised of 2 quarter-pound beef patties, locally sourced, chopped jalapenos, bacon, American cheese is supposed to be, but I had them change that to cheddar.
That definitely looks like cheddar.
Also with that, yeah, cheddar's much better. Jalapenos, tangy mustard, and chipotle ketchup.
What's up with the fries? What's this product placement thing going on here?
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Nope, they're calling you. They've already realized that you've infringed on their copyright.
Who calls on a regular phone anymore? I don't know. And for some reason
they were calling to tell you that your computer is infected and that you need to log into this page right now.
No, it was about his auto warranty.
Bob from
about
Microsoft.
To expire. His auto warranty was about to expire.
Yeah, it probably was. Damn telemarketers and dogs.
Before we move on to the topics of the evening, I just need to interject that we have a brand new patron, blast from the past, one of, a favorite president of so many, Abraham Lincoln, has thrown a little into the kitty.
Interesting.
We got to appreciate for Abraham Lincoln. Thank you so much.
I don't know what bill is Abraham on.
Are you sure you're not saying, hey, Blinken?
It's more of a penny, I think. They're Canadian.
Wow, the least valuable piece of physical currency we have. Now I'm actually forgetting who's on the 5. The 1 is Washington. The 10 is Hamilton. The 5 is...
Ooh, yeah.
It's Lincoln.
Jefferson is on the 20. Is it Lincoln on the 5?
It is Lincoln on the 5.
Okay, wow, he gets a coin and a...
Yeah.
Here, let me dig into my deep
Here we go.
pockets.
Here we go. Camera 2.
Okay, I think showing Showing money live is
Showing
probably
off.
some
Oh,
sort
I
of-
have a $5 bill. Oh, there he is.
Abe Lincoln.
Hey, Blinken.
News story number 1 tonight is AMD's announcement of the Radeon RX 6600 XT graphics card, which happened while I was editing last week's podcast. So, actually, they did their announcement somewhere around midnight. So, we had just left the air, and they were talking about this. So, yeah, new graphics card coming. Guys, are you excited about the era of nearly $400 1080p graphics cards? Because they are saying this is meant for 1080p performance. Incredible. High refresh 1080p performance.
Refresh rate.
What's
Yeah.
It says 125 FPS on average across a wide range of modern AAA titles.
How do you feel
So-
about comparing this with the 580?
How do I think about that?
Yeah. What do you think about doing that?
I think I am
That'd be
doing
interesting.
It's going to be significantly faster than the 580.
that. Of course.
Yeah.
But the 580.
This is the
Go ahead.
price premium you pay for high refresh rate 1080p gaming.
May I ask,
Double the price.
is 125 that high? Because high refresh monitors are 144. So if I can't hit a 144 average, I guess I could lower the settings. Like, I don't know if this is at high, ultra. If this is 125
But that's why you got
ultra,
FreeSync, man.
It's a 32 compute unit RDNA 2 product. It has 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 128-bit memory bus, down from 192 with the previous 6700 XT. It has a game clock that is very similar. It's down a little bit, actually, 2359. But the boost clock is almost the same as the 6700 XT. We're talking like 2581 versus 2589 megahertz. Infinity Cache is a third of the 6700 XT at only 32 megs, which is, I think, why they're calling this a 1080p card. And total board power 160 watts. Launch price $379. Launch date August 11. So I kind of wonder
One week away.
if they had had more Infinity Cache, this could be a 1440 card. But they called the 6700 XT like your ultimate 1440 gaming card. So I guess that from a marketing standpoint, it makes sense. But I don't think anybody likes the price. Maybe I'm alone in the group here.
No, that's why I said something about the 580, because the price is just so extreme. $379.
You remember
a lot for a 1080p card.
2016, I think it was. June of 2016 is when the RX 480 launched. I want to say the 8 gigabyte model was $239 at launch. And a year or so later, the 580 was out there. And then in recent memory, like 2018, 2019, the 580s were these cards you could find on Newegg for like $179,
Exactly.
$169.
Yeah.
Fast card
They're
for
not
1080p
terrible. They're not terrible, even to play a lot of today's titles. Not terrible. Got to turn down some of the effects.
No, but if you're playing 1080p high,
Yes.
not ultra
Oh,
high,
Okay, high. All right. That's
there's nothing wrong with
probably
a
little bit.
580 still. And there's
Well,
You
I-
might push it
I
a
will-
little bit. You might see more drops.
I will quote from DICE today. The recommended specs for 2042 is 580.
Oh,
Or
yeah, I did
1060.
see that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pertinent, and you've probably got one because it was before the drought.
yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. Like going into the 6600 XT, because of course we're going to eventually review one. This, if they want the 1080p performance crown for its class, I guess, fine. And it's in their charts, and I'll have to pull one of these up again. They're showing its performance relative to a 3060. And according to their internal testing, it is a little bit faster. And here's the esports titles one, where it's, except in Valorant, it's slightly faster across the board than a 3060, and 15% faster on average in just other titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Battlefield 5, Borderlands 3, Cyberpunk, etc. So in almost every
It's
title
really
they
that much
show-
faster than a 3060. That's good living.
Well,
And maybe you'd force NVIDIA to drop prices.
If it's that much faster than a 3060, that accounts for the $50 premium they're asking.
Yeah.
Because a 3060, contrary to what some have commented, is not more expensive than this. You're thinking of the 3060 Ti, which is a significantly faster card than this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Because it's a significantly faster card than a 3060. And the 3060 is a 329 card in the imaginary world where you can buy things at MSRP. So, and I will also
nice world,
say,
I hear.
to be cynical even more, that this card will never approach anywhere near its 379 MSRP because unlike NVIDIA, they're not doing any kind of nerfing of mining performance.
Oh,
So
right.
the last time I asked AMD directly about that, they said, no, we let the users decide what they do with their hardware, basically. So I haven't seen or heard anything to refute that. So this will be another card that they don't have the same price performance offering that NVIDIA does for miners, but it's better than nothing, and it'll be available. So, or won't be available.
We hope
Who
it'll
knows?
be available.
Not at the probably
it's a
not
much
at that
smaller
price.
chip.
Yeah, you'd think that yields would be
They've
better.
been making them for a while.
I just saw somebody mention it was 150 millimeter square. Not huge.
Yeah, that's for a GPU. That's
Yeah.
not that bad.
It's not that bad.
This reminds me of the 5500 XT, the really small one. But it has 8 gigs of RAM, so that's a big deal. But this is why
Yeah.
I immediately thought RX 580 or 480,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they future-proofed so well. Buyers who bought into that 5-6 years ago have a card that still has 8 gigabytes of fast memory and can play just about anything you throw at it. So I am very curious
Yeah,
to
it's a
see.
256-bit bus, so it's same bandwidth as this. Maybe a little slower, but not much.
This had better
Have you
blow
noticed-
the 580 away, is all I'm saying.
Have you noticed some of the recent comparisons? 580, 1060 on some of the latest games still shows the 580, if not equal or most better in many cases. That's that fine wine approach, I guess people in the AMD camp often.
Well, if you
say.
remember, the
It's
1060 initially
done pretty
was
well.
a 3
Yeah.
gig card.
Yes.
Right.
So the 6 gigabyte version of the 1060, if you pay, I think it was like $299 for that one.
It was
Something like
significantly
that.
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those, of course, got cheaper for a while, and then they were gone like around 2017 because you couldn't buy any GPUs back then, and then became commonly available again, but then disappeared once the 16 series cards hit the market, like the 1660 Ti.
Remember questioning why they even existed when they first came out?
What, the 16 series cards?
Well, because they were filling a hole that didn't really exist
They
for
were.
price to performance.
They were
I
the
feel like
GTXs.
They grew into it. Don't get me wrong, but when they originally came out, it was more of a really. But that's when we had a graphics card at like every $10.
right.
It was a different tier.
As it turns out, the 16 series GTX cards, the touring cards, exist to give you a $500 or $600 option years later, because that's the one card you can sometimes find for $500. Maybe a non-TI 1660. Maybe I'm thinking of a 1650 Super, but this is the wrong landscape to actually talk about value of any of this stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't know. I don't know until we actually have hardware in hand and can talk about it. We're just speculating, obviously, but I think a lot of people are having a hard time with that price point because it wasn't that long ago that $400 was buying you an RX 5700. And I think if you're an AMD enthusiast and bought, say, a 5700 or 5700 XT a couple years ago, and right now it's impossible to upgrade unless you're willing to spend $1,000. Well, I'm just curious if this card with 8 gigabytes of memory is going to be able to beat a 5700 XT. I hope it will.
It's a damn good thing they don't measure inflation by GPU prices. That would not look good.
The 5700 XT equivalent NVIDIA equivalent was roughly a 1080 Ti, right? About that?
It depended on the game.
The what?
Okay.
There were some games where a 5700 XT, I think, traded blows with the Ti.
I always thought that was more 1070, 1080 performance and not so much TI.
Yeah.
I have to look at some old reviews.
I don't know. I have to look at that.
Yeah.
I had that impression that it was fairly close in a lot of games. Just trying to level set that. Yeah, I think the people who are still rocking one of those, they're probably doing okay.
Any more thoughts on this?
No.
Okay. Well,
But that wasn't the only set of AMD GPUs that were really
no, it's the only
we're
one that
recently talking
mattered
about.
to anyone. I'm just curious. I'm going to go back to my review here because I don't remember. This is the 6700 XT. Last AMD graphics card I looked at. I just want to look at 3D Mark to see if I did. Yeah, here's a 5700 XT in 3D Mark. Time Spy is almost exactly the same as a 1080
and the
Ti.
Founders Edition.
It depended
there you
on the
go.
game, but they were very close to each other. Here they are right next to each other in Time Spy Extreme, within 100.
TI's a little bit ahead.
ray tracing.
Well, okay, not that
Well,
one of those
there
are
you
really
go.
going to
Yeah, but
deliver
Hey,
on
look
that.
at that junk drop.
Metro Exodus.
Oh, yeah, there's a
It's
change.
a little bit of it.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
only
you're right,
3
though. I mean,
FPS,
that is
but
still significantly faster than a 1080. A regular 1080 and a 1070.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's close to a 1080 Ti. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
Anyways, can we hear about this Apple thing so we can get it over with?
Can we just get this out of the way?
You know what? It's going to be really fast, but the cool card here is the dual GPU one, the AMD Radeon Pro
Ain't seen one of those in a while.
W6800X. I know that's
That's
what's
on the
sort of
last.
interesting.
Apple had one of these before.
They did, but AMD feels, apparently they have the backslapping we're great friends approach. They're making a card apparently just for the Apple Mac Pro chassis, right?
Right.
Which is interesting,
Which they
and that
did
it's
before.
they did, but they're still doing it even in the waning era of Intel.
You know why they're doing
Apple.
it?
Because they pay them a ton of
Because
money.
Apple ordered it, and so they made it for them.
Well, that's that ton of money.
This,
You can just
this
back
article
into
does
that.
not have the nice picture of the dual GPU.
Yeah, if you could find that. But it's cool. It's a 400 watt graphics power dual GPU with 30 teraflops of FP32, which I'm pulling out of that table right now, which I think is awesome. It's actually looks like a really
That's
good card.
not bad.
Nobody has
Yeah.
pictures.
Infinity
Somebody
Cache is
held
at 256 meg. GDDR6 is 64 gigabytes. It's essentially two entire what looks like 6800 series
6800.
GPU.
Yeah.
Glued
And
together
the pricing.
on the same
I mean,
board.
it's like
I know.
you get to pay for two of them too. If you want
Kinda, yeah.
the Radeon Pro W6900X
I don't know, for a
module,
workstation, that's not bad.
$5,600. I guess I haven't priced out Quadro cards.
Well, it's got
lately.
32 gig of GDDR6 on the 1600X. That's kind of why I
I
wanted to
said
talk
it was
about it.
two 6800
Yes, I should have listened to you,
XTs.
Josh. All right, enough of this
Exactly.
nonsense.
But with double the memory. 32
Let's-
instead of 16
Yes.
Yes.
per
Yeah.
module. Per,
Double your fun.
Now I was
So
not,
it is
except for the-
pricey.
Anyway.
moving on. All right, I was not privileged to receive one of these, but other outlets did, and the reviews of the Ryzen 7 5700G are everywhere. Here we're looking at Tech Power Ups review by Wizard with a 1. And we've seen reviews of this already, honestly, because it was available on OEM channels and people were going out and getting them and writing reviews of it. So we've kind of already talked about this, but it's coming in the next couple of days. I think it's August 5, I think it goes on sale.
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow.
So yeah, when you actually are listening to this, you should be able to buy it for $359. And just in case you don't remember, let's go to page 20 here. Integrated graphics performance, because right now we live in the era of not being able to buy a graphics card. This is a 710. So let's see, relative performance, no, that's 720. Lowest settings. Okay, it's kind of interesting how they do this. The green bar is a system configured with 3800 DDR4. And
Yes.
I assume a 1900 F clock. And then this
They don't specify that, so I don't think
don't.
it is.
Oh, that would suck.
And because they specify when they overclock the iGPU.
Okay.
So why they chose that, I would go out on a limb here and say AMD said, try giving it faster memory that doesn't match the F-clock.
I can't imagine they would say that. Why would
but
they
I would
want
still
that?
say, give me 32, 36, and 38.
The last
Show
time
me.
AMD likes you to run at 3600. That's the memory they send with the CPU.
All their chips like it too.
So 3600 is perfect because then you have the 1800 F-clock, no problem on every one of their CPUs. Anyway, the 100% on these charts is using the higher speed memory, and then right below that, this the green bar is high speed memory. The brown bar is DDR4 3200, which is baseline memory for Ryzen. So it's about 7% faster.
And then going off the green, so the 100%, the purple, the default in the BIOS is 512 megs of VRAM reserved. Okay. So they upped it to 2 gigs to see what happens. As you can see, essentially nothing.
It's lowest settings at 1080p. I wonder if that would have more of an impact. Although really you can't go much higher than 1080 low with only 2 gigs of VRAM.
No, you wouldn't really want to on this.
Yeah, but I mean the numbers. If you just and listeners, I'm sorry because I'm not describing this very well, and it's a graph. But if you look at the lowest position on the charts is the i9 11900K's GPU, where in Assassin's Creed Valhalla you get 11 frames per second. Moving up to a GT 1030, you get 13.5, which really does. That speaks to how impressive Core i9's 11th gen graphics can be. It's almost as fast as a 1030. But then you look at the Ryzen 7 5700G, and even with the slower memory, you're getting 26.2 frames per second. You're doubling your FPS. And it's just going to go higher because, of course, with faster memory, APUs scale. They always have. So here's Battlefield 5 at 1080p. It's the same story. You're getting double the frame rate almost of like an integrated Intel graphics by moving up to this Ryzen.
Yeah, and that's kind of insane because Intel was starting to creep up on them a little bit with the integrated graphics. And they were, but no longer. So, yeah, it's AMD did a wonder with this highly tuned Vega. They did some really interesting stuff. They must have done some interesting things to the front end and scheduling because they're very efficient. They run at high speeds, and they don't eat a whole lot of power in this integrated configuration. So, yeah, kudos to them. They knocked it out of the park with an integrated part that is attached to a leading edge CPU. It's not anything cut down. It's a full-fledged 5000 series, almost a 5800X.
Well, it's like a mobile one.
Well, yeah, but it's 65 watts, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and with integrated graphics, so you're not gonna get the sustained boost of a 5800X,
and it has less cache.
but it's not that far off.
No, well, that was one thing I mentioned, and then I corrected my mistype because damn, the models of CPUs are just too similar nowadays.
Get your 5s and 7s right.
Yeah, well, no, it was a 3 and a 5.
Oh, okay.
I typed 3600X instead of 5600X, which should have been a giveaway because I don't think there was a 3600X. Although I could be wrong on that too.
Yes, 3600X was a real CPU.
So when they looked at it and they strapped it with a 3080, the performance of this chip, the 5700G, was noticeably behind the 5600X. So if you're looking at a temporary solution, it might be worth taking a look at and saying, is it worth still gaming on an old GPU and picking up the newer and purpose-built non-APU Ryzen, or is it smart to pick this up? Because if you've got a really old graphics card, it is kind of smart to pick this up, and honestly, you're not going to notice that much of a difference in gaming. You're talking, you're still on a 3080. The tiny 5-10% frame difference is not going to be noticeable.
Well, but its performance also increased when they applied better cooling to it than just the integrated the fan that ships. So it's what PBO. I can't remember what the
Precision Boost Overdrive. Yep.
Yeah. It shows up big time when you have better cooling than the dinky rink little fan that AMD includes with that. So someone with some kind of liquid cooling or a better air cooling system, they will probably get better sustained performance in a lot of these applications, just because it likes not having to thermally cut itself off.
And
What?
I was going to say, like, well, and that makes it even more attractive to buy an APU for $359 when you also have to use $100 AIO to
Yeah.
actually get the performance out of it. But then again, that's still cheaper than a POS graphics card right now. So, although I will
don't
say,
forget to factor in the faster memory you should be buying.
We were talking about the 580 earlier and 1060. Look at here. I mean, I keep on scrolling because there's all these games. Here's Cyberpunk 2077. In every one of these charts, the story is the same. A 1060 is about twice as fast as this 5700G. So even with the faster memory, more VRAM. So it doesn't really matter what the game is. Like here, you go from 51 to 106 frames per second. You go from 34 to 81.8 frames per second. So you're getting significantly better performance with just an old 1060. What on earth is happening with Dota here? I feel like Intel must be cheating. That's only at 10. I don't know. What is happening? Dota 2, 1080 lowest settings. That's the fast preset. The 11900K gets 125 frames per second?
I think
that cannot be right.
Isn't Dota 2 like heavily optimized for Intel graphics, and they do all kinds of weird stuff to get these super high frame rates on there?
Maybe. I guess it depends on what scene they use too. There's the thing about Dota. There's no built-in benchmark with Dota. So what kind of complexity was the scene you were benchmarking? The one that I've used is one that I found in some post that I thought was like an NVIDIA, an Intel kind of post because it was on Medium. But the guy had picked a replay of a very intense battle, and you got there was a batch file. So I ran this thing, and it creates havoc. And your frame rate at the beginning, when it's just like this single character walking across the map, is very high. And as soon as it gets into the battle, it drops. And that's when the benchmark starts. So 100 to get 125 frames per second, I almost wonder if you're just like standing still. But who knows? Far Cry 5.
Kind of like being in the menu.
Yeah. Far Cry 5, another game I'm familiar with. It's double. It's more than double to get. What I'm saying is, a 1060 is really freaking fast for 1080 gaming already. These are all very acceptable frame rates, 80 to 100 frames per second. So,
but what if you got your 165 hertz monitor that you bought to attach to your?
That's true, and you don't want to play lowest detail settings either. But I'm saying if you want a game high FPS gaming, all you do is 1080 low now, even on a mid-range graphics card, and you get there. So I guess my hope for the 6600 XT would be that it's high detail settings and the same FPS average. I'm only planning on testing it high. I'm not doing any ultra testing.
High.
Okay. Talked about that.
It's still a little pricier than I'd like them to be for CPUs. But I imagine, well, if they ever actually can deliver them to retail, which they haven't been able to do for a long time with their APUs effectively, it's hard to say what they're going to do. I don't know. Weird.
You know what is not weird? I don't know why people have forgotten that ASUS has done Crosshair Extreme boards in the past. There was a Crosshair VIII Extreme. We just didn't have one for the 7th generation Crosshair board. But for 8th gen, it's coming. This was reported by some different outlets the other day. Over this last weekend, a listing for the Crosshair 8 Extreme went up on the ASUS ROG site. I didn't see an official press release. I was like searching through email, checking their press site.
ATX
Yeah.
size motherboard?
Yes.
Oh.
It's monster size. 5 M.2.
You are correct.
That's crazy talk.
Well, it's because of the the slot next to the memory where you can put more.
Yeah.
M.2.
Well, and also the 570 chipset is just, it's got, 24 lanes already of PCI 4.0. So,
yes. But look at the upgrades from the Hero/Dark Hero. It's EATX, of course, as we mentioned. 18 plus 2 power stage. Those 5 M.2 slots. But much faster connectivity. It's got USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2. It's got Thunderbolt 4. It has 10 gigabit Ethernet built in. It's got Wi-Fi 6E. So it's just a much nicer, like, high-end premium, dare I say, flagship.
And no active cooling on the chipset, interestingly enough.
Well, at least not visible here. But
there
it looks
could
like
be a
it's
fan
not.
under there. We don't
True. Yeah, true.
But look where they put the power. They rotated the power connectors. They don't stand up.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You know what? This looks.
I like that.
I in the article I surmise that perhaps it should come as no surprise that ASUS would step up their ROG offering, as EVGA is teasing a return to AMD motherboards with their own premium X570 option, the Dark. So,
Yep.
And of course, what's coming? Why would you want to refresh your boards? Why would EVGA be doing an X570, which is AM4? Well, because we're going to have a whole new generation of Zen 3 Plus refresh chips on AM4 before we get to AM5 with the new socket. So, Josh, was it you who was saying this would probably buy them like a year, like Zen 3 Plus, before they move on to AM5? Or do you think that AM5, well, AM5 for sure is coming in 2022. That's what Lisa Su said.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be end of summer, beginning of back to school. We'll probably, see releases on it in July with the AM5 processors. And so, yeah, that essentially gives them around a year to sell product. And AM4 is not going anywhere for that time. And we're certainly not seeing Zen 4 until next year on 5 nanometer.
All right. Something that we don't have to wait until next year for. Something that we only have to wait until this podcast is actually published to know more about. We buried the lead. 3DFX Interactive. It's interesting to see how people have covered this, because certain outlets have covered it as fact. The only thing that exists that we know of is a Twitter account called @3DFXOfficial. 3DFX, the actual brand, the trademark lapsed a few years ago. NVIDIA, of course, bought out what was left of 3DFX when they went bankrupt many years back. But there's this, they clarified allegedly, just this looks so much like the Interplay thing from recently, when Interplay was coming back. And then it turned out to be a
Atari was
hoax.
coming back.
Well, the Atari one at least.
The Sinclair XT was coming back, or
that's not going to happen.
Anyway, here we go. Here's a screen. This is live right now on Twitter, which oddly enough, 3DFX Official follows. It says follows you. It's like it follows PC Perspective. Interesting.
Yeah, it followed me like the first night it got active. It was a little bizarre.
So
it follows Slim Jims too. So
it's bizarre unless it's somebody from our community who did this. But Janssen Products, according to this, what looks like a JPEG of a Word doc or something. Although the font suggests possibly an Apple user. Janssen Products is proud to announce that 3DFX is returning after 20 years. Janssen Products, a new investment company in San Francisco. I'm going to stop here. Why is it called Janssen Products if it is
someone
an
couldn't spell
investment
Jensen
company? An investment company does not call itself products. By the way,
it'll also call itself, 115872223477.
Right. And if you Google Janssen Products, there is one in Iowa, and they are a trusted and local web developer.
And there's no Janssen products listed in California that I've seen.
No.
Nope. I have looked in a couple of places, and so have other people.
That's an unfortunate naming coincidence. doubt they have anything to do with it.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
Janssen, yeah.
No.
Now they're
And who knows?
Josh,
I mean,
think it's onto
maybe-
something.
Maybe at best, what we could expect, because they also talk about getting into audio and some TV stuff and some smartphone. I mean, how many people have wireless earbuds that they're selling for $100? They're just like a plethora of them, and they range from decent to absolute crap. And so the best thing that we could expect from them is they're another add-in board partner of either NVIDIA or ATI
Or
and
Intel.
or Intel. That's another option. And they're just slapping a sticker on there that says 3D effects, and they're hoping that your idea of nostalgia will allow you to buy those products. But I mean, that's been done before with VisionTech and with Diamond. Both of those to not great results, but maybe there really is a couple investment people in San Francisco who said, we need to hop on this GPU thing because it's going to keep growing. Maybe we can sell some products, invest some money, make some more. And we're going to branch out also once this stuff kind of, cools down. Eventually the market hopefully will. But that's the basic case scenario, that it's a real thing and they're going to release something in November, December timeframe that it's just a rebranded another video card.
If you take a look at the last line on there, I think they're implying that it's not maybe going to be like that. I think they're talking about televisions and video or audio accessories or something like that. It doesn't seem that was grandiose.
Secondary stuff. I mean, because like if they're doing some basic audio things, then with TVs it'd be like, well, we offer the 3D effects soundbar.
Yeah,
It's
something
a
like speakers.
$110 knockoff of a Yamaha thing.
Yeah, something
I
like
think-
that. I'm afraid it might be like that. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. There's nothing to
'Cause, I
be
mean,
afraid of.
What is there left to buy from 3D effects other than the
The
logo?
name?
NVIDIA
logo.
got
Yeah.
just about everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're going to somehow develop a chip with T-buffer on it. I mean, we're so far gone and past of the technology that they developed 20 years ago. I mean, they were talking, their latest Rampage was DX8. And that's integer pixel shading. And it's not used anymore. Anywhere. So, yeah, it's...
Well, I guess it wasn't that good then.
Well, you could
Yeah,
say that about Windows 98 SE, but you'd be wrong because it was that good.
it was fantastic.
It was
no,
good.
this
It
has
was good
been-
for that time.
No, it was good. It still is.
It still is.
Put
right?
it on an old box. You'll love it. It's way better than Windows
Yeah.
10.
I imagine.
Well,
it's
we'll
probably
find out
goes faster.
tomorrow.
We'll find out tomorrow
We will.
that this is exactly the same. This follows the exact same pattern as the Interplay hoax, where they started a Twitter account. They teased something coming up. Then they had one of these letterhead screenshots with the company logo. And then the whole thing it dissolved because the actual rights owners of the company came out and said, this is a hoax. This is not real. Here are actual accounts. That was not one of them. And the account has been deleted. And 3DFX went from a 0 follower, 0 following account the other day with a piece of artwork from DeviantArt without credit, and somebody who apparently found a PNG of the logo to use, probably from Wikipedia. And suddenly it's turned into this, where all of the major outlets have been talking about it. People on social media are talking about it, which is exactly what these people wanted. You get a bunch of attention
it's kind of
for
the
nothing.
dog days of August where not a whole lot is going on, and it's a nice distraction.
I guess.
And it
Yeah.
throws back and the feeling of nostalgia. And sure, it's probably somebody pulling our leg, but hey,
They're doing it in a pleasurable manner.
Whoa!
Hey, is that still? Oh my gosh, it's wrapped up.
Let's
Well,
make
it's
box
mostly
art
wrapped
great
up.
again.
Yeah, they
Let's make
did do
box art
fantastic things with that box art.
Hey, Josh,
Yep,
how
they
much do
did.
you want for that?
Talk to me later.
Okay. That box looks crispy. Most of the plastic's still
I've kept
intact.
it good. In fact, I still have 2 other boxes up there.
Oh,
one with a
Lord.
pre-production card, and they're both
wow.
pre-production boxes.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
only a couple hundred ever made, if even that.
You know what? If you could just send them the box art, they could probably do something nice with that.
Probably. Who would have thought that I'd kept 20-year-old video card boxes?
Oh, no, I
More
would have
than
thought
that
that.
now. 21.
I would have thought
22.
that.
Think about this. There are people who seek out 20-year-old boxes. There are people who will buy
is
just
true.
the box for an old product like that because it's such
Are
an
you
iconic
describing
brand.
yourself, Sebastian?
Yes. This one's up for bids here. It's only
Can't
going
say
for
the quiet part out loud.
$86.30. Guessing this is Canadian. Yeah, it's Canada. But he doesn't have the plastic on the box. There's tape on it on one side. The collectability of yours, Josh, because of that plastic, keeping it pristine.
This is not mint condition.
No, this is not at all.
Yeah, but that does it have the plastic insert that the card is surrounded with?
And why is it
Or is it just the
Canadian?
box?
I don't know. I wouldn't buy this.
Huh.
Not for anywhere near this. What is up with this fan situation? It's a dual.
Just-
That's some
fan
nice
system,
cable
it looks
management there.
Wow.
Anyway, going down the rabbit hole. That one's got 4 bids, almost 4 days left. We'll see how much it goes for. Yours is worth much more. Our next story. TPM, Trusted Platform Module Security. It's a hot topic. Windows 11 requires TPM 2.0. Allegedly. So,
Ostensibly for increased security, right?
Right? Yeah, and more Apple.
Well, they added BitLocker into it, so you're screwed.
Sure.
All right,
Sure,
so-
following Apple's footsteps like everyone else does.
right, because Apple has Apple.
And before
Apple
we start this,
P2.
I would like to remind everyone that when Windows 11 comes out and you're going to use Windows 11, you have no choice but to use this wonderful thing we're about to tell you about.
And it is
Even if your board was not equipped, you must buy an additional module and add it.
How could it be no soldering required? You can defeat a TPM chip in 30 minutes? Tell me more. Dan Gooden from Ars Technica. I like the keyboard is on fire visual with a very
Well, come to
up-to-date
find
cell
out-
phone on that desk.
Come to find out, the
SPI
signaling,
is a problem.
Okay.
the signaling that they used is actually shared by another chip on the board that they could get attached to, and they did not protect the transmission between the TPM module and the bus where the communication is happening. So they're able to tap into it on a different module and then decrypt it from there, which got them into the hard drive. And then they were able to search through the hard drive and then turn up VPN keys that eventually allowed them to actually hack the server of the intercepted laptop. And this is what this was based on. This to see if a configured laptop that was being sent to a prospective employee that was totally locked down and ready for them to use, if there was a situation that if somebody intercepted that laptop, could they gain access and how much damage could they do? And they got all the way to the company's servers simply by
That's kind of
attacking
ludicrous.
the TPM. Yeah.
Great. So then there will be shielded special high security TPM modules from now on.
No,
Well,
you
honestly, there were some responses to this article that suggested some very viable approaches of mitigating this, and that's what security is. It's like, oh, we broke it. Oh, well, here's the mitigation. Security broke. It's broken. Here's the mitigation, and it's just a game, sort of, you know.
So
Well,
mitigation
are
is
you-
going to be
motherboard-
to cover the chip up with really nasty epoxy and multiple stacks
Sure.
of duct tape. So you
that
can't
could be one
and the
actually get
CMOS
to
chip.
it.
So
Yeah,
this
And the
is
the
CMOS
CMOS
chip,
chip
because
that did
that's
it.
where they got in.
Yes.
The same-
Or doing an opening, like if there's, if you open the computer, remove the back, there's a disable or something that happens. If you pull the covers off of it, kind of thing, a physical tampering.
So what you're saying is
That's
this
one.
Something
would be
something pierces the lithium ion battery and it all goes up in smoke.
software
one way.
destroying hardware. I like it.
Yeah.
Another way is to communicate a password that goes in association with the laptop that doesn't engage any of the connectivity until these two things are brought together by the intended recipient. So
This
if the
just
intended
sounds so
recipient,
complicated for actual users.
You're absolutely right. Security is inversely proportional to convenience every day.
Nobody wants a boot password of any kind. And if they
Why
have to
not?
have one, it'll be the same password for the entire organization.
Agreed.
Well, yes.
That's
Because
right.
when
Well,
they
so
call
is
in,
the
like,
admin
I
password.
can't, my system won't even boot. Well, what is it saying? It says enter boot password, and then the
Yeah.
tech's just going to have to give them it's generic 123, like
Yeah.
it is on all of our company's computers.
Well, I mean, so the local admin accounts.
Right.
It's not like you're going to have several different local admin accounts with different passwords. But no, this is just ridiculous because the TPM was it was added to boards as cheaply as possible, just like everything else is. And so what they did is they used the same damn bus that they use for the CMOS. And to be perfectly honest, a bunch of factory testing things as well. When it says that it's been factory tested, that they've been using that SPI bus to do it. So by trying to create a brand new set of connectors, like physical connectors for the TPI chip to actually go and connect to other things, in which case it's still interfacing with other stuff, it's either going to be a prohibitive cost, or they're just going to find another sort of crappy way to implement this. That's one of the reasons that I'm so frustrated that they're going to make this mandatory. Is that for Christ's sakes, yes, TPM is not evil. There are certainly wonderful applications for it, but forcing everyone to do it, and especially corporations that do not use BitLocker, to have to deal with this, because every time you boot it, if it's got TPM enabled, BitLocker just fires off. You cannot stop this. It was designed by Microsoft to not be stopped, so it won't be. So now you're running PowerShell to kill the process, and then don't encrypt the little bits that it's already done, so then you can use real encryption on it that doesn't actually have a hardware stored key on the motherboard. But another thing to this, and just to end it, because I'm sure we should move on to something else, is, for Christ's sakes, disable SBM on your networks. Or, sorry, SMB. Because part of what they did to get nastier with it was that they found a VPN that launched during the boot process. Very big thing in corporate environments, because it's hard to push GPO.
Very typical.
If
Yes.
they're not already on VPN. So, boom, there's the credentials. And they were going into some of the old SMBM to do network drives and get access there. It's about time to give up on some of those older protocols. Please. For crying out loud.
Well said. But you have more disturbing news for us, Jeremy, since
Do I?
you have our ear. SKYNET. What can you tell us about the latest developments
Would you
in
like
SKYNET technology?
to play a game?
Well played, sir.
The U.S. Northern
This-
Command has been testing predictive machine learning. Why is this ominous?
Yes. I can't imagine. It's not like every other machine learning technique that's been massively implemented, like facial recognition or criminal predictive behavior, has failed horrifically. Because the problem is that machine learning is really, really quick. It's really, really good at biasing itself very quickly. And if you don't know what the hell you're doing, those biases then become the base of every other single evolution from that point on in your algorithm. It takes garbage in, garbage out to a whole new frickin' level. So with a mix of machine learning and AI projects, the U.S. military, they've just finished a couple of days of experiments to sell this thing to the Pentagon, which will see days into the future. They're talking about, they see a satellite sees a submarine starting to be loaded up, and it immediately knows, oh, well, it's going to be launching in 3 days. Now, I believe we already have, wetware that does this sort of thing. So, yes, machine learning will be able to chew through satellite photos significantly faster. These automated systems will have no problem going through a huge amount of data in very little time as compared to us, wetware, the analysts out there already. But they're also incredibly good at fooling themselves because they have introduced biases that the programmer has no idea about, because nobody really has decades of experience with machine learning. Talking to a lot of guys that are gotten jobs in this sort of thing, yeah, they've got this nice little black box. I feed it things. Some comes out the end. If we don't like it, I'll change something. And if they like it, then we just do more of it. Which is a problem because you should never keep your entire data set. You have to keep screwing with it. Janelle Shane, if you don't watch her, great AI researcher, and she does some amazing things. Like she took the Great British Baking Show and tried to teach a system to determine what was a cake and what was a human. The pictures are wonderful. They're also incredibly disturbing, but they sort of give you an idea of what this is. There's also the issues we've been having with self-driving cars, where if you literally put the S out on a stop sign and it just says top, some self-driving cars will no longer recognize that as a stop sign because the text gives it away. You could be dressed up as Batman but have Spider-Man on your written out on your chest, and you will be 100% qualified. Yeah, that's Spider-Man. That's not Batman. So putting that in the hands of people that are going to be using this to make military decisions, and the other thing is that they're saying, well, this is going to skip a lot of the command chain so that this stuff is going to be brought to attention much quicker. So you're not going to have the bullshit detector. You're just going to have a computer spitting stuff out. And I can't think of a single sci-fi novel that ever turned out well in.
Have you guys ever noticed that computers and software make very fast, very accurate mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
To err as human, to really screw up, you need a computer.
Indeed.
Josh?
Yes, wasn't it in 1983 or something that Russian colonel essentially saved the world by telling their yeah,
I think I heard
refusing to launch
their bullshit that your analytics here and your computer, all these warnings are not real. So
it was some sort of a cloud, wasn't it? The systems picked up as a nuclear launch. It was something ridiculously innocuous like that. And yes, we are all here because of that guy that just refused his orders.
He was probably still sentenced to death anyway, but
No, he's actually they didn't let that story out for 10 years, but he was well compensated for not destroying the world.
Yeah, that's good.
I think so.
I mean,
that's a good quote.
Josh, there is a chain of command. Look, I'm here. Well, I'll simulate the experience. I am beyond pleased. I can't even tell you how happy I am that my family is still alive, that the Earth still exists. But you defied a direct order, and we have to.
Well, it wasn't really a direct order. It was the computer program spitting out the U.S. has just done a first strike launch, and his job was to take that stuff and then initiate the order. But it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't an order. It was.
Okay, fine. Analytics. It wasn't an order. He wasn't doing his job.
Yeah.
He was not efficiently doing his job. That's why we should all be replaced by machines. The machine would have done its job.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have to pay high GPU prices because we'd all be
very fast,
we wouldn't.
very accurate.
Damn it.
Mistakes.
That's
But I tell you what, the price of dog food, canned dog food, would be astronomical in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah. But the GPU prices wouldn't have gone up.
Would we be eating the canned dog food?
Only if you had a can opener.
Well, those left.
Haven't you ever seen Mad Max? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been many years.
A dog and a boy and his dog. That's a classic one. It was Don Johnson in the 80s.
There's another one for your list, Sebastian.
There you
go.
Just make me a list. Make me a movie playlist of things that I didn't see in the 1980s because I was too... All right, the Register. We've neglected the Register this week. So let's look at them. They report that Microsoft Cloud PC's debut priced between $20 and $158 a month. That's not very exciting. Paying for Windows. I can pay for Windows now.
But it's the whole computer. It's not just Windows.
Oh, okay, it's an instance.
Windows as a service is a whole different thing because you're going to have to pay that as well as this.
This is different.
I suspect.
But it was free, wasn't it? It was free for some period of time.
Yeah, and within 24 hours, they hit the limit. They're no longer taking applications to try this out for free, which means you can't really try Windows 11 without destroying your own computer. So, yeah, they grabbed a relatively decent Lenovo X1 Carbon. And so the $20 a month cloud PCU is a single CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, and 64 gigs of storage. That's it. They ran it on the web interface. And, I mean, first the signing up didn't go well, but, I mean, the workload would certainly make that. I mean, it's like trying to order a Steam Deck on the day. It's going to be a bit of a problem. But, like, the fan on that Carbon was just screaming, from what they say, after just a few minutes. Not really doing much, just running it. So, okay, they tried it with RDP. So now you lose sort of the whole, I am now running a computer, it's just, well, I'm RDPing into a remote computer. And same issue. A hell of a lot of CPU load. So, I mean, that's not wonderful. And honestly, $240 a year, assuming no Windows licensing or other, because the cheap pricing is only for the actual CPU, or for the actual virtual machine. If you want to be running Microsoft software on it, well, then you got to pay a little bit more for the Microsoft Advantage that they offer, which sort of lowers down your pricing. Otherwise, you're paying for an Office 356 subscription. Well, and you're paying possibly a Windows. So once you try and get into something decent, like, say, 4 CPUs, 16 gigs of RAM, you're paying significantly more than just that. I mean, $75 a month for having a CPU, or for having a system that someone else is paying attention to and not you. Well, I'll give it one thing. It's slightly cheaper than an Amazon Web Service. Okay. But that's about the only thing I'll give it to you. And I haven't heard the same amount of complaints from AWS consumers that the whatever machine that they're running it on is under a significant amount of load. The other fun thing was that this should be based off of Azure. And if you go and you set up a 2018 server, it's live in seconds. LReg said to wait a significant amount of time in order to actually have this thing come up and be regular. It was about an hour. On the other hand, they could run it on an old Samsung A52. They ran it on an older iPad, and it worked perfectly. Resumed exactly from where they were, though, of course, it's a little difficult to interface with a desktop version of Windows on a touchscreen. So, I don't know. It's going to be popular. Office 356 was, but at the same time, you're still going to have hardware to run it on, and from the sounds of it, you're not going to be running this on a dumb terminal. You're actually going to need something that's relatively beefy, possibly even beefier than the machine you're renting to run it.
Now, remember, folks, 356 is Canadian for 365.
No, that's just about how much uptime they have.
He's being honest about the uptime in Microsoft.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm being nice, to be honest.
It should be 348.
Remember when there were 9s involved in system reliability?
Yeah, and how many 9s you wanted to buy.
Number?
Right, like 99.96% reliable uptime, right? That kind of thing.
That really wasn't. No, that wasn't very good, actually. You wanted more 9s.
No,
yeah, 6 9s.
I know what you're saying.
That was a full day.
4 9s.
6
4 9s
9s
anyway,
in
but
minutes to an hour.
6 9s is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
This is more, so North America and the EU, they just can't do SharePoint for the next 4 or 5 hours. We're working on it.
Yeah, that sounds like your life.
Yeah, I mean, the other half.
I'm just thinking about what the actual user case for something like this is, and I'm sure there's a number of them, but one that pops into my head is M1 Apple users who can't natively run x86 Windows. You can't do Boot Camp or Parallels or anything unless you're doing an ARM-based version of Windows. So I can see them paying for an instance if there's Windows software they absolutely have to have, but they still want to own a Mac. But beyond that, I can't think of anything in my limited scope. All right.
The Linux community got it backported, so they figured it out. But anyway.
It's cheaper for the technically savvy to just run Windows if you need to in a VM. You can do it with VirtualBox.
Right. If you want, I'll set you up with a remote desktop.
Yeah.
It's better than that.
Virtual's pretty good.
All right, let's move on to our final segment of the week. It's Picks of the Week. And Josh, take it away if you're still awake.
Oh, barely awake.
That plays great on audio, by the way.
Yes, it does. Anyway, more inexpensive NVMe SSD drives. The SSD 980, the latest inexpensive ones from Samsung. It's DRAM-less, but they've kind of tweaked the controller. They've done interesting things with the amount of
MLC?
SLC cache in here. It's adjustable and variable. Yeah, and it's pretty fast, and it's as quick as most like Phison E12s. But you can get it for $109, and it's a 5-year warranty for the 1 terabyte. And for Samsung, that's pretty damn good. It's a little bit faster than the 970 Evo in most things, so that's positive. And but not as fast, obviously, as the 970 Pro or the new 980 Pro. But for $109, 5-year warranty, Samsung name, and quality, it's not a bad deal.
The quality just is undeniable. They have that brand cachet.
Yes, it does. So it's going in the wife's new machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You practice what you preach. You're actually getting the stuff and using it.
I try.
Or making other people use it so that you don't have to use it.
Yes.
It's like, honey, I've got the fast SSD. You could have this DRAM-less
Yeah, but
thing.
you see, it's mostly for my friend who comes over and games with me.
Oh,
so
okay.
he uses the wife's machine.
The truth comes out.
Yeah,
She doesn't care.
She doesn't even know.
She doesn't care. She wouldn't notice it. I'd
Did you
put her
even
on a
tell her?
spinny drive, and she'd be perfectly happy. So,
Does she leave her computer on all the time?
no,
No? Okay. I was going to say. Like,
I turn it off.
if it's a situation where she just uses the web browser and it's always in RAM, then yeah, why would she care what her storage was? But
Yeah.
okay.
For those asking, see,
Oh,
it was
look,
in
it's
shot.
back.
No one
There it
pays
is.
attention.
Where is it in the shot?
Well, we couldn't see it.
Well, that doesn't look like anything. It's
Oh,
just kind of
it
looks
looks
like
Well,
a
I know
black
it's
shadow
the lighting
blob.
sort of.
It doesn't look red until there we go.
Yeah,
Careful,
but
that
then
light-
I gotta screw with my lighting.
That
and
light
stuff.
switch is not flush to the wall, as people are noticing. By the way.
It's also actually upside down. You flick it the wrong way.
And if you flick it a little
that's-
harder, it comes right out of the wall.
It comes right out the
Uh,
wall.
I mean, yes. That's
Exposing those Canadian electrons.
It's an old work box shoved into.
But I mean,
the
if
wall.
you're going to bitch about people, I can't actually reach the G3 that I have, which is actually the kilowatt one. But that's my pick.
Oh.
Is a really good Canadian deal on that EVGA G3. It's a 750, and it's under $100.
Wait,
this thing
is that 750 watts Canadian? How do I convert that into US watts?
Well, actually, our watts are significantly more powerful.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's more like 1,000-watt American power supply.
Yep. It might actually blow your entire fuse box right out of the wall.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
But it's actually wee. The 140 millimeter fan in there is pretty much as big as they could get. Fully modular, and if you're watching this podcast right now, you can get it in Canada for $100. If you are one of our viewers that doesn't watch us live, try and consider it because you'd be able to get deals like this. But we still love you.
Yeah, Just, a day late and a dollar short, missing out on all of our weekly time-limited coupon deals.
And it also comes with the really cheap but stupidly effective power on self-tester. Because when you got a system and you don't know why it won't boot, with this little thing, okay, I can rule the power supply out. That's still coming.
I think I've only seen EVGA and maybe FSP include those. They're nice to have. No, Corsair included one, but that was with their Hydro kit. So.
Well, PC Power and Cooling used to, but that's dating.
Yeah, because you would usually do a ATX for the motherboard, and then you do another power supply for all your hard drives.
Oh,
we're talking 15, 16 hard drives.
Wow, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I've built that in the past for UW. So I had to get a AT power supply that they would turn that on before booting the machine, just so they could get power up their entire array. It was a little janky, but it worked.
Until it didn't. Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, this was like in 2002, and we had... It was a 2 terabyte array in 2002.
How many drives? How many drives?
Like
60 terabyte array in 2002.
It was like 16 drives. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Did they at least stagger the power-ups to not overwhelm the secondary power supply?
I can't remember. No, you just popped on this, 500 watt AT power supply and
just went for it.
Yeah.
All right. Our final pick. Well, I have an anti-pick, a PSA. But Brett, you're up.
My pick this week is essentially free if you're a Waze user, and it is please go and download the new voice to celebrate the upcoming release of Halo Infinite. It's Master Chief, getting you where you need to go. Now, I'm going to try this right now because I just downloaded it a little while ago. I'm going to see if...
I didn't notice a military spec security harness in this vehicle, but at least throw on that safety belt before we ride out into battle.
So there you go. Master Chief.
You have that in your car?
I can have it in my car.
What's his door is ajar?
And you can set your icon, although I haven't actually gotten to this to work yet. You can set your icon to the Warthog or one of the Covenant flyers, I do believe. So, yeah, go download that. It's free. I'm sure it'll be amusing. Master Chief has many things to tell you. I'm sure he's going to tell you you're doing it wrong.
Do they have a Gordon Freeman one?
Gordon doesn't talk.
That's my point.
Gordon has never talked. And, there was a discussion briefly about whether or not there was actually verbiage around Master Chief. And I'm like, of course Master Chief has talked many times in the past. So
yes, he has.
It wasn't a surprise to me. But at first, if you just played original Halo, there wasn't a lot of Master Chief talking, or might have been. It was very little. But
he talked to Cortana all the time, so...
Right, and he did talk to Keys.
And Sergeant.
There was some cut scenes where he talked to Keys, cut scenes where he talked to Cortana, and the dropship. Yeah, so... Anyway, it's a cool mod. It's supported for a little while. Waze always puts these out there for some period of time. So, yeah, if you're going someplace with Waze, go grab Master Chief's voice. Freebie.
I still want the all-silent Gordon Freeman one.
It is not Master Chef Kent.
All right. Well,
no, Lorash.
My pick is just a PSA because I'm dumb. Okay, here's the situation. I was revamping the GPU.
Your parents took off on a week's vacation?
Yes.
And never came home?
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the situation.
Now we know.
Revamping the GPU test bed, which I've been using the same Evo 850 1 terabyte SSD for, I don't know, December 2018. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna move to NVMe. I should have done this before. And rather than just cloning the drive, I'm like, I need to upgrade to the latest version of Windows anyway. I want to be on the latest drivers. I'll just do a totally clean install, reinstall everything from scratch. And I put in a 2 terabyte NVMe drive. My mistake was leaving the other one connected. This is not a data loss nightmare story. The other SSD is fine.
Well, no, you're not Ryan.
This is, I went in, I did the same thing I always do. I, Shift plus F10, go into the command prompt from the Windows install media, disk part, list disk, select disk 0, clean, and then start the installation process on that clean SSD, and I cleaned the right one. The problem is, and I'm going to go to this laptop I'm using here. Here is the disk management console. Disk 1 is a 500 gig SSD. As you can see, here's the Windows primary partition. Here is a 261-ish megabyte EFI system partition. I have to have
large-ish, but
to boot.
That seems
large. They have to be at least 100 megabytes, but anyway.
Right.
It's 261. Yep. And when I installed Windows on that SSD, and I specifically chose the 2 terabyte 980 Pro,
but it still boots to the old one.
Yes, the EFI partition on the SATA SSD.
Well, do you know how to get rid of that?
Mm-hmm.
You have to change Windows boot managers in the BIOS to the correct one.
Yep.
Why is your video frozen?
Videoless Josh is absolutely correct.
Frozen to me.
Oh, well,
No,
you're frozen.
no.
You guys are all
It's just
frozen
you.
up.
No,
It
you're
is
not
me.
moving, man.
My point is, don't leave the other drive connected, because I've tried a bunch of stuff and I've manually transferred the boot files over to a EFI partition that I created.
No,
and
won't
moved
work.
everything over, and no.
BIOS.
It doesn't work. I'm stuck using both drives, and I'm in the middle of a project right now, so I do not want to clean install in the middle of everything that I'm
You
doing.
don't need to. You just need to find in the BIOS the Windows boot manager and convince it to pay attention.
Well, there was nothing. When I looked at the disk management for this drive, it was just one huge partition. There were no EFI partitions. And I manually created one. I put a live image together of gparted. I booted it up. I manually resized and moved the partition to the right. I created a minimum 100 megabytes of free space for myself. I then booted up with install media again for Windows. And I used the, X prompt to create myself an EFI partition. And then I followed all the commands that I was reading in this guide on how to have it prepare it, like fix boot, fix MBR, and then I copied over the boot files.
Well, you don't want MBR.
Maybe that's what I did wrong.
GPT.
Yeah, that would actually cause a lot of the issues you're talking about if you did that.
It claims that it's a GPT partition, but now that I think about it, I wonder if is it even possible to have an MBR partition on a GPT?
Yes,
Oh.
and it doesn't like it.
Okay. Well,
It doesn't like it.
I'm making
one
mistakes
bit.
right and left. I guess my point is, don't use Windows, and if you have to, when you install it, just have one drive.
You're not wrong.
There. It makes it.
You're not wrong.
And then put the other one in later. I just wanted that D drive. Like, I wanted my other stuff in case I needed access to it. And it was dumb. I haven't done that in a while. And this is the pain.
You're paying the price.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, that's our show for this week. We hope you tune in again next week. I think, next week we're doing a show, as long as all of us are still alive. But the week after that, we're taking a week off. It's summer. It's late summer vacation time, before the kids go back to school, that kind of thing, or whatever. But we're taking the week off. Not next week, the week after. And so we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for watching
Fairly
and for
well.
listening.